I'm dedicating this February bullet journal theme to all of us who took ballet classes as a kid. This is February in my giveaway journal, which is not my own journal, but one that I have given away to someone. It's actually already made its way to its new home. Hi, it's Erin. Thank you so much for planning with me. We're doing a cute little ballet-themed collage bullet journal setup for February 2024. Using this lovely Scribbles That Matter dot journal, I'm using this incredible PET tape as generally the basis of this theme from the Washi tape shop. This is their Frost Bloom PET tape. It is the most beautiful combination of incredibly soft pinks and icy greys, along with some sticker sheets from Sticky Club's, I think it was February 2023 Swan Lake themed vintage sticker subscription, as well as some iridescent ballerina stickers from JOURNALSAY, and also from JOURNALSAY, a couple of solid pastel washi tapes as well. There are links to all of these items in the description, so if you see anything you'd like to get your hands on, you can absolutely do that. And if you scroll down a little bit further in the description, I have some handy discount codes for you as well. I've tried to match up the colours of the washi tapes to the colours of these beautiful ballerinas as best as I can. And then we're going to start layering everything on the page. Funnily enough, this pink and blue theme is actually kind of similar to the pink and blue theme of January in the giveaway journal as well. That was completely unintentional, it kind of just worked out that way. I guess I was feeling the pastels for the beginning of the year. Oh, and I'm also using this kind of ballet pink coloured glitter washi tape, which I got from Daiso in Australia, but I'll see if I can find something similar to link in the description if you are international, so that you can recreate this if you'd like to. I thought I would talk a little bit more about the concept of the giveaway journal and what it means and why I'm doing this, just in case you're new. The giveaway journal is a journal that I fully create for 6 months of the year and then give to somebody who is a viewer on my channel. I mean, it's right there in the name, right? The giveaway journal, the journal that is given away. But why would I want to do this? Well, there's a few reasons, actually. One is that in my own journal for the first half of 2024, I'm using a lot of paint. I bought a journal that has watercolor paper inside, and so I feel like not using it for paint would be a little bit of a waste. I'm trying to push myself to learn some new things for 2024, and one of them is arty things with paint. But I have built this channel by making bullet journal videos that have this collage-y kind of theme like what we're doing today, and I didn't want to just abandon those people and give you no inspiration anymore, but I also didn't want to set up a second bullet journal and then just not use it. I'm also very lucky to be in a position by running this YouTube channel where I get sent a lot of stationery for free, which means I have a lot of beautiful stationery and I couldn't possibly use it all for myself. So this way I get to use some of my beautiful stuff, I get to show you some inspiration that's separate to the painting stuff in case that's not what you're into, and hopefully by giving the journal away it will still get used and somebody will get to have a good time with it and maybe learn what they like or don't like in journal layout. So hopefully it's a win-win here. But yes, it did mean that I had to set up 6 months worth plus the initial setup in this journal ahead of time so that I could send it off kind of in December and hopefully it would reach our giveaway winner before the year started for them to be able to use it properly, which I think we did pull off. The winner did receive it before Christmas, so that's very exciting. And I will be setting up another giveaway journal for the second half of 2024, so if you are interested in winning a journal like this for yourself, make sure that you're subscribed. I won't be announcing any competition entry details or anything until much closer to mid-year, but I will be doing another one, so stay tuned. I've set up a little calendar for February on the right side of the page there. We haven't filled in any of the numbers or initials on that one yet, but it is for the month of February, obviously. I just felt like the cover page was looking a little bit too bare at this point, so I jumped back in with some script washi. I use this almost constantly, I've used it so much. I can't believe I still have some of this tape left. It's also from JOURNALSAY, and the moment I run out, I'm going to be getting some more. When it comes to a single page calendar like this in an A5 journal, the best way I've found to make it fit with the spacing is to do boxes that are 3.5 spaces wide. Sometimes it does feel a little bit uncomfortable drawing it out because obviously you have to go in between the dots on the page for some of them, but it does mean that you end up with a nicely, mostly centered grid on the page. I usually set it up so that it is one space from the outside edge, so there is one row of dots that is empty on the right side, and then on the inside where it's closest to the binding, you'll just have half a space left over. Obviously, being a calendar, this is a place to write any events, any reminders, any day-specific tasks for the month. And this is also your reminder that it is a leap year this year, so February has 29 days, which is, of course, unusual. Maybe we're a bit out of practice. It's been 4 years since we had to do one of those, so make sure that you leave yourself space for a 29th. Also, something about glitter washi tapes. Stickers don't stick very well over the top of them, so I'm using a little bit of glue pen to stick down the corners that don't want to stay. Before we get stuck into the next spread, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. A new year to most of us feels like a natural time to set creative or career goals for the year ahead, but once you've written them down, where do you actually start? A lot of the advice I've seen out there recommends breaking your goals down into steps, but how do I do that? I'm trying to achieve something I haven't achieved before. How am I supposed to know what comes next? Enter Skillshare, the largest online learning platform for creatives, packed with thousands of industry expert-led classes across every pursuit you can think of: film, design, productivity, illustration, photography, traditional art media, all of it. Whatever you're itching to learn, there are several incredible teachers ready to show you exactly how to do it on Skillshare. They've even gone ahead and turned all those goal-achieving steps into learning paths for you. Learning paths are curated sequential classes designed to take you from where you are now to where you want to be, whether you're a creative professional, a freelancer, building a side hustle, or picking up a new hobby. They're designed to be taken in order, so you're building on what you learned in the classes before, reinforcing what you've already learned, while introducing new ideas and techniques to keep you motivated and moving forward. Learning paths are available in a wide range of experience levels from beginner to advanced, covering all kinds of topics, whether it's a particular tool or software package, marketing, productivity, you name it. I mentioned earlier I'm embarking on a painting for fun journey in my own journal this year, so I'm starting here, a learning path called Gouache Painting Basics, Dive into Tools and Techniques. It has 5 classes with a total runtime of 3 hours and 35 minutes, so achievable, starting with learning how gouache works as a medium, moving into playing with color and texture by painting teacups. I can't wait to do this class. Then on to color guides and mixing, painting portraits, and then mixing media with both gouache and watercolor. I'm hoping my progress will reflect here on my channel because I'm using that watercolor journal for my own 2024 journal, so I'm incorporating paint into every theme. I can't wait to get started. Don't let your goals go unachieved in 2024. Invest in your goals and start your learning journey with Skillshare to take yourself, your career, your side hustle, or your hobby to the next level. This year, start here. The first 500 people to use my link will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Let's move on to the next spread. We've turned the page and we're moving on to a tracker spread this time. Setting up trackers for an unknown person is actually really difficult to do because you don't know their personal circumstances. Actually, with all of the pages in the giveaway journal, I'm going to be setting up everything in a different visual way, but with the same functions throughout all of the months, because I didn't want to, set up a sleep tracker in January and then take it away for February in case the person who wins the journal wants a sleep tracker, So the same 3 trackers will appear across January all the way through to June for the giveaway journal, and possibly beyond, depending on what I decide to do later, I'm not sure. Starting here with a habit tracker, this one has space to track 6 habits, and I like the way this setup looks. I always think this is very pretty. I wrote it 30 almost by accident. That's okay, we'll fix it with a white paint marker. But it does involve writing quite a few numbers, and I knew I was going to continue to write a 30 by accident if I didn't vary the way I was adding these numbers, so I've switched to a vertical number adding system instead to trick my brain into not writing things in sequence, and it worked, which I love. Tell you what, making mistakes in my own journal, not a big deal, but making mistakes in a journal that I'm planning to give to someone else feels terrible, so I'm trying to avoid it wherever I can, but sometimes it's just gonna happen, Down the bottom here, we're adding the sleep tracker, which is not something I include in my own journal anymore, but I had in the past, so I had an idea of how to set this up generally, I guess. Along the horizontal axis are the numbers for each day of the month. Just checking, I believe that February starts on a Thursday, which is handy to have a reference to earlier in the book. There's more to how that works, but we'll come back and I'll explain it once the page is all set up, so you know what to do if you wanted to do something similar to this. This grid at the top is for a mood tracker. I could not think of anything creative for this one, so it's just going to be a very utilitarian mood tracker, and of course we need to add headings to everything here so that we know what's what on the page. I'm actually so happy with my lettering for this whole theme. The Pentel brush sign pens are delicious. I think they are actually my absolute favorite pens for lettering. I wish I had more of them. I only have 4. Of course, it's not a theme without some repetition of elements that appear elsewhere in the theme, so we need to add some more washi tape, some more flowers to these spreads, and of course some ballerinas to make the theme all come together. And I've deliberately staggered where the trackers sit on the page so that there's space for me to add these things. The florals especially are kind of large, so I needed to make sure I was allowing enough space to make them work in a way that they would not overwhelm the page. Thankfully, they are very light in terms of colour, so they don't have that much visual weight, but also using elements that are quite large in your decoration typically means that it's going to be a quicker and easier setup too, so things to keep in mind. Now that the page is all set up and ready to go, how do we actually use it? Well, starting with the habit tracker, you're going to write the habit in this column on the left side here that you want to track, and then for each day, there are a few ways you can fill this out. You can just use your fine liner or whatever preferred pen you like and cross out the number for that day. You can color it in with a little cross hatching or even circle it if you like, whatever feels good to you. Alternatively, you can grab yourself a marker that goes with the theme, and instead you can use that to circle or cross or color in the number for that day. Every time you have a colored in number, you know that you've done the habit for that day, and ideally you'll try not to break the chain and keep your habit going. For the mood section, I've left a space here underneath where the winner can assign a different color to each of those days and just make a little swatch of it there. They can assign a mood to that as well, whether it's with a little emoji or with the word that describes the mood, whatever they prefer. Make sure that each mood has been assigned a color swatch and has a little key going on there in that gap, and then they can jump into the grid that's above and just color in the space in that box in the color that corresponds to their mood, or they could draw a little doodle. There are honestly a few ways you could use this one, but I think that's the most straightforward. Alternatively, you could just jump in with your fine liner instead, and instead of colouring in a section with a different coloured marker, you could just write the word for how you were feeling that day. You could draw a little smiley face to describe it, something like that, so it's totally up to you. There are different ways to use trackers, just a few ideas, you know. Then underneath, obviously, we have the sleep tracker. Along the bottom are the days of the month, and up the side here you can write the general times that you envision yourself sleeping or that you know are typical to you. So say it's from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. or something like that. Write those times along there, and then in the space for each day you can draw a line from when you went to sleep through to when you woke up. If you're using a wearable fitness tracker like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something like that, it will probably log automatically what time you went to sleep. But if it doesn't, something I saw somebody suggest on a video once was that they take a screenshot when they go to bed of their lock screen, and that has the time on it, and that's a really smart way because then obviously the screenshot is time-stamped. But obviously you need to remember to note down the time when you wake up as well, which can be tricky, unless you're setting an alarm and just getting up at the same time, which I'm not very good at, but you know. We've moved on to the next spread anyway, and this one is going to be a meal planner. I'm obsessed with this layout. I actually originally came up with it for my content planner, which is a little bit different but works in a similar way. Obviously, if you're wanting to think about planning out your meals in advance, maybe you're trying to save money, maybe you're trying to eat healthier, maybe you're trying to break some bad habits, maybe Erin made some mistakes drawing out the lines and needs to employ her nice white paint marker to get rid of some extra lines that aren't supposed to be there. Thank goodness for washi tape and stickers, because we can cover that up really well soon, but for now, white paint marker. Something I find really satisfying about a month like February that starts on a day that is kind of halfway through the week and finishes on a day that is halfway through the week is that you get this nice kind of Tetris block shaped calendar, and that naturally leaves you space to decorate. So the top left corner and the bottom right corner of this spread are really obvious places for me to put decoration, so I'm just gonna go with it. Let's talk about the functionality of this meal planner. So the pink columns here are for the number for each day of the week. I always like to include the initial as well, although it's pretty obvious if you're starting your weeks on a Monday, like I am in this journal, that the top row is always going to be Monday, and so on and so forth. You can use logic after that, but I've deliberately made each of the boxes 4 spaces tall so that you have room to do breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack in each of those. So breakfast at the top, lunch, dinner, and then a snack underneath. And then you've got room for all of those every day if you want to. Of course, you don't have to plan every single meal, but you have the option if you wanna. This next page is one I've always really enjoyed in my own journal, but I never gave it an overarching name, so I've decided to introduce that for the giveaway journal. This one's called the Snapshot. If you've spent some time on my channel before, you might know it as my goals, favorites, and musings page. Really the same concept, just giving it a title at the top that I don't normally do. Each of these 3 boxes is for one of those categories, so goals at the top, favorites in the middle, and musings down the bottom. Obviously, we talked a bit about goal setting earlier in the video. This is a section to write down any monthly goals that might help you on your path to achieving those annual goals. Favorites is a fun section that's really just for looking back at who you were at the time that you were using this monthly setup in your journal. So that can be where you list anything that you're into, whether that is media you're consuming, TV shows, books, music, stuff like that. It can be food that you were really into at the time. It can be colors that you found you wanted to wear a lot. Like whatever it is that you're into goes in the favorite section. And musings is just to put a little bit of a snapshot of what was on your mind at the time. Hence the word snapshot for this kind of overall page. It's a snapshot of what your goals were, what you were into, and what you were working towards, as well as what was on your mind at that time of your life. I really think these snapshot pages are probably going to be my favorite to look back on in 5, 10, 20 years, because that's the most interesting stuff, right? Like, who was I then versus who am I now? I didn't want to lose the headings for these sections into the boxes. I didn't want them to take up any more space that could be used for goaling or favoriting or musing. So I'm writing them on some sticker paper instead. I had this left over from like August in my own journal. I wrote them a couple of times because I wasn't super happy with the sizing for some of them. And then I'm just going to cut those out so that they have a little white background around them and stick them down on top of the decorated sections on the left and right sides of these boxes. I also wanted to give those boxes a little extra pizzazz since the snapshot heading is going to take up quite a bit of space at the top of the page. I wanted to introduce some more pink onto the page without it being overwhelming, so one of my absolute favourite tricks that you've probably seen me do 100 times is to use a really pale marker, like for instance the one I'm using, the 800 Tombow, which is baby pink, just to highlight every second line inside those boxes, give them a little extra oomph without being overwhelming. You know what's not represented on this page yet? Ballerinas, so of course we need to add some of those gorgeous little ballet stickers in here as well, to make sure that the theme is theming, you know? Then we're going to move on to the right page, which is of the spending tracker, which is one of my favourites. You know I've got to have it in every one. Dear Giveaway Journal winner also has some spending and budgeting tracking tools in the beginning of the journal that go for the whole 6-month period, or even the whole year, if they wanna. So of course I had to introduce some spending tracking things within the setup as well. I personally like to write down everything that I purchase in my spending tracker, so there's space here to do that if you want to, but some people prefer to just write down their larger expenses and just track those rather than every single thing that they buy, which is also totally valid. So whatever works best for you when tracking your spending is a great thing. And some people don't track spending at all, and no shade to them either. To each their own, right? So the way this works is I have two tables that are exactly the same. They're just next to each other to save space on the page. Those tables have 3 columns to them, and they stand for item, category, and cost. So everything you buy, you can assign it a category, which corresponds back to the beginning of the journal, and write down how much it costs as well as adding a little description. Then there's another table at the bottom that is for helping you move that data into the beginning of the journal. There's a budgeting section with spending limits at the start, so you can write down the total by category in that bottom right corner table there, and then compare the amount spent to the spending limits that you set for yourself at the beginning of the journal, and kind of see how on track or not on track you are, and hopefully course correct a little bit from there for the next month if you need to, or just be really proud of yourself and your incredibly sturdy sense of self-control when it comes to spending. And then of course, if you find that you're underspending in a category a lot less than what you anticipated, then maybe you can redirect that extra money into your savings or something like that, or even up your discretionary spending if you feel like you need a little treat. Because we all deserve a little treat every now and then, don't we? This one always ends up being a tricky page to decorate. I've ended up just cutting down some of the flowers so that they just peek in from the right side edge and over the top of the blue washi there. It was a little bit tricky, and I've tried to incorporate some of the ballerina type stickers through there as well, but they had to be small ones because there wasn't a lot of room here. We need all that space for planning. That is the spending log done though, so we can turn the page and move on to our next one. This spread is actually a spare one, because this is not going to be my journal. I do not claim to be able to anticipate the needs of an unknown person, so I'm including a decorated but otherwise blank page in each of the setups, a spread in this case, although sometimes it is just a single page, so that the giveaway journal winner can add other trackers that I might have not thought of, keep extra collections that I might not have considered, anything at all that they want to add in here, even if it's just a junk journal page, because I am including extra stuff from each of these setups in the same box to ship to the winner, so they've got some goodies to play with as well. It could just be a quote page even, you know, anything, whatever they like. This is just a spare page. So I'm trying to decorate it somewhat minimally to make sure that there's still lots of room on the page for them to use if they want to make it functional. It's a tricky line to walk, but I'm trying to walk it as best I can. With the spare spread all set up, we're going to turn the page now and move into the first of the weeklies. I, in my own journal, only set up the weeklies kind of 1 or 2 at a time. I'll usually do the first one within my Plan With Me video at the same time I set up everything else, and then we set up the rest of them on 1 or 2 live streams on my channel so that we can do some planning together and hang out and chat and have a really good time. This journal, obviously, I am not afforded the opportunity to do that on live stream because I am no longer in possession of this journal. It is on the other side of the planet right now. So I had to set them all up in one go, which I tell you what, takes a lot longer than the system I usually use for my own journal. It starts to get really challenging to think of new ideas for each weekly when you're having to set them up pretty much back to back, not just within the monthly theme, but within the entire 6-month period that the journal covers, because you will notice from my nails, I think I actually changed them halfway through, but I have the same nails for really the first half of the giveaway journal and then different nails for the second half because I got sick of looking at them in videos because they were the same, that I did this over the course of probably 2 to 3 weeks in November and early December, so it's tricky. Anyway, we're going with a classic 8-box layout for the first weekly here, with a little bit of a twist where the decoration is all at the bottom of the spread, so you've got the boxes with lots of room for planning along the top, a note section so that it's nice and symmetrical, because obviously there are not 8 days in a week, and then plenty of room along the bottom to add some nice big decoration like these big PET tape flowers. I love them. They are large and difficult sometimes, but I think they are worth it because they're so gorgeous. You could vary this setup by having the decoration at the top instead if you want to, or quite often I'll do this setup but I'll have the decoration go right through the middle, so the boxes for the planning for the weekly dates are above and below the decoration instead. This next weekly is one that works really well if you're setting up a Dutch door weekly system like what I've been doing in my own journal, except I'm not cutting any of the page away. This is just going to be decoration and planning in the middle, really. So I'm dividing the center part of the page into 4 sections. That's the space for the planning. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday will go on the left page, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and notes will go on the right page. And I'm leaving about 1/3 of the page space blank on the outsides for decoration. Not blank because I'm obviously already putting washi tape there, but not planning space, you know? If you like this layout and you feel like it's functional for you and you are lazy and like to only really plan things out once, then instead of adding decoration to the outside of every spread, you could just add decoration to the outside of the first and the last one and cut off that outer third of the pages in between and then have this really efficient but still beautifully decorated Dutch door kind of a system. And it's great. Just in case you're wondering what the heck that box of Redhead's Matches is doing, I was using it to prop up the left side of the journal because obviously February is still quite early in the year, so I wasn't to the halfway point of the journal yet. It does lay flat beautifully open on your desk, but the left side needs a little bit of support if you want it to match evenly with the right side when you're still this early in the journal. And when you get towards the end of the journal, you have to do the same thing but for the other side. It's just a normal hardcover journal thing to have happen. This next weekly is a little bit more of a loose setup. I was originally thinking radial, but I don't think it quite worked out exactly as a radial sort of circular weekly setup. But I started with a border and I'm adding some decoration in the middle of the page. This one leaves you a little bit less room for actual planning, but I think it usually works out okay. So you have your beautiful collage decoration centralized within the middle of the page. Sometimes you can get a bit carried away with this and accidentally make it too big. So you got to try and be mindful of how much space you're taking up when you decorate the center part, but then you use the space above and to the left and right of that, and underneath as well, to add the sections where you're going to actually do your planning. So similar to the previous spread, but on the outside this time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on the left page, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and notes on the right. I sometimes get questions about my grid spacing guides and how I actually use them in practice. I'm not showing you me using a grid spacing guide here necessarily, but this is a really good example where for 2 spreads in a row, I have divided the page into 4 sections. So if I know what the average size is for dividing my page into 4 sections, although I have added a border here, so it might have adjusted things a little bit, then, you know, it just means I don't have to count that out every time I want to divide a page into 4 sections, because clearly that's something that I want to do pretty often. This was actually the point at which I realised I made a mistake when numbering some of the dates on the previous spreads, which was a bit dumb of me, so I'm just going to go back through and correct those now. I really recommend having a white paint marker on hand for this kind of thing. It just makes correcting things so easy. Mine is from Peter Pauper Press from their Studio Series set, and I think it's gorgeous, but I have been using it for a while and it's starting to get a bit finicky. I know some people like the Posca paint markers. I have one of those too, but I feel like it's not as opaque as this one. And there are people out there who really like a gel pen for this purpose too. I hate gel pens, I just can't use them, but if they work for you, then I am very glad. Only one spread left to set up for this theme, and that is our very last weekly. I'm using the box layout that is inspired by the wonderful Ruthie journals, except rather than enclosing my boxes, I'm just going to leave them open. So the way this really works is you divide each page into a grid of 6 spaces, and then the dates that you do your planning in kind of alternate and smush themselves around the boxes that you use just for decoration. This is not a symmetrical weekly design, and I know some people prefer to keep things symmetrical. It really doesn't bother me at all. Hopefully it doesn't bother the giveaway journal winner that these are not symmetrical. If it does really bother you, you could of course just add a note section, and that would kind of force it to be symmetrical. So you could move the Thursday onto the left page, add a note section on the right page, and then everything would kind of balance out. I don't think it needs a notes section rather, necessarily this time, so I'm just going to go with it the way that I always do, and I think it will turn out looking fantastic. Here's a moment that strikes fear into the heart of anyone who journals with washi tape, is that moment when you run out at the very end of a roll and you're not finished setting up the theme. There's nothing left on that roll, so this part has some paper stuck to the back, so I'm going to use some glue tape to stick it the rest of the way down. And I wasn't done. I wanted to include some blue washi in this top box here as well, so instead I've gone into my collection of pens and I found a blue Tombow that closely somewhat matches, and I'm just going to colour in that section with the blue marker instead so that it sort of has the same impression. I'm going to layer some flowers down over this anyway, so hopefully nobody would really notice too much, but I think it's a pretty good colour match and it gives the same effect. So what are you going to do? I didn't have any more blue washi that matched, so this was really my only option. It's Ballerina adding time, and I have almost finished this sheet from Sticky, so I'm just going to go through and add the tiny little feathers around the headings here as well, so that I can fully finish up this sticker sheet and feel very accomplished. There's nothing quite like finishing a sticker sheet to make you feel accomplished. And here is the flip through of February 2024 in the giveaway journal. I am in love with this romantic, soft girly ballet theme. I think it is so pretty. It really transports me back to my days as a ballet girly. I did classical ballet for 9 years and still have not lost the urge to point my toes, so maybe that's you too, and if that is, I see you. I see you and your pointed toes. I'm so excited to keep sharing the giveaway journal with you throughout the next few months, and I'm so excited to set up the next one as well. So don't forget to hit subscribe if you're interested in maybe being the winner of the next giveaway journal. If you want to check out the January pages in this journal, you can see a link to that in the top right side here, and underneath that is a link to the initial pages, the very beginning of this journal too. I can't wait to see you again next week. Until then, stay safe and happy. Bye.